This is the School Success Podcast, a podcast for school leaders to learn from other school leaders what's working and what's not, and to get inspiration and encouragement, as well as strategies to grow school enrollment, connect with families, retain teachers, recruit teachers, and everything in between. You guys are heroes, and I cannot thank you enough for pouring into this next generation that's coming behind us. My goal is you will take at least one thing away from every episode that you can take back to your school to make it better than it is right now. Please enjoy the School Success Podcast.
Hey! Time for school!
Hey school success makers, today we're joined by my new friend Coleen Ryan out of Beverly, Massachusetts. She is our first Waldorf School guest, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear about the Waldorf education style and everything that it involves. They have an amazing location there in Beverly, Massachusetts that she explains and dives into all the things that they offer the students that go to. I'm pretty jealous because they got a lot going on there and they're doing some amazing things. We dive into all of it, and I hope you guys enjoy the next episode of the School Success Podcast. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the School Success Podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Slater. I'm joined by a new friend out of Beverly, Massachusetts, Coleen Ryan, who is the admissions director at Waldorf School at Moraine Farm. And they're doing some awesome things, and she is the first Waldorf guest that we've had on the podcast. So I'm stoked to dive into what all that entails, what their philosophy is, and learning some more from her and her school. But I don't want to take any thunder away from her. I'm going to just pass it off to her, let her introduce herself and what she likes to do for fun. So Coleen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. It's my first podcast, so this is exciting. Yeah, so I'm in eastern Massachusetts on the North Shore of Boston, so close to the ocean. And yeah, I do a lot of stuff outside. That's very Waldorfy. We love to be outside. So on the weekends, I'll be hiking. We also do a lot of hands-on stuff. And so I'm also into crafting and knitting and reading. Yeah, just kind of getting out into nature whenever I can. It's a big part of what I do.
Love it. I love all that stuff too. And I think it's a perfect, we'll just jump right into that main question I have for Waldorf. I think I know of the name, I know a little bit about it, but I would love to hear from obviously an expert on your side. If somebody asked you, hey, what is Waldorf? Tell me about it. Give that 1,000-foot view. What exactly would you tell them?
Well, Waldorf education has actually been around for over 100 years. Rudolf Steiner started a school in Germany for the children of cigarette factory workers. So it's really meant to be a modern education that's accessible. So it's been around for 100 years, but we still kind of hold on to this idea that it should be accessible to as many people as possible and meet the modern child. So we definitely hold like a certain view of child development, but we're not doing what they were doing 100 years ago in that school. So we're thinking about what do children need to know now, what's relevant. You know, Waldorf education isn't trying to prepare people for college. It's just trying to help each individual person find out what their unique capacities are and develop them to their highest potential and just become whoever they are meant to be. We really recognize that you're not just a physical person, but there's this spiritual, intangible part of you as well. So when we say that we have a holistic approach, we really mean it. We're really looking at different parts of a person, their intellectual part, their thinking, what they can do with their hands, or their willing, we call it. And then emotionally, who are they, their feeling side of themselves as well. So we're trying to feed all those different parts of a person so that they can feel like all of them is moving forward and progressing in the way that they're meant to.
All right. I love it. And it sounds like from when I've talked to different guests, the ones that kind of, they're similar, and I actually don't even know what the biggest differences would be, and maybe you would be able to tell us. The guests I had on that was with the Friends schools, like a Quaker school, Montessori, and Waldorf. They sound very similar in their approach of very like letting the kid, it's kind of like freedom of, I guess, of what they're doing and listening to the child. Do you know kind of what some of those, maybe the bigger differences between the three are?
Well, one thing that I think is unique to Waldorf is that we talk a lot about rhythm. But what that means is there's very much a structure to the day. The teacher is teaching and has a plan where they're going to be going. So in some other types of education methods, the child's curiosity may be driving where they're going and what they're going to be learning next. But in a Waldorf school, the teacher has a plan and has a long-range view of what they're going to be getting into curriculum-wise. In a Waldorf school, your first grade teacher is your second grade teacher, is your third grade teacher. So in my school, we go from grades 1 through 8, and your class teacher is going to stay with that class for all 8 years. So when we talk about long-range plan of curriculum and where they're going to be going, that teacher has a really long view of their curriculum. So in third grade, when we focus on farming and gardening, those are literally seeds to be planted and picked up in fifth grade when they're studying botany throughout the year. So the teacher gets to know the children, who they are, and knows exactly where they're going to be heading long-term with the class and what they're learning about.
Man, that's my first time hearing that side of, I guess, a school, what they're doing. I love that. I think that's actually really cool to know you're going to be with the same group of kids. And the only example I have that's something similar is the church I go to that I help out with the youth program or whatever there. They do that for the small group time where if, like, for instance, a few years ago, I had the 9th grade guys, and next year I'd be with the 10th, the same group, the 10th grade. And they had it the same philosophy of like, hey, you know those kids so well, like why ruin that relationship, move up with them till they graduate. And it worked really good because you just form those deep bonds, those deep relationships. I've never heard that before for a school, so I really like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's not just about the parents, the teachers knowing the students, it's the parents and the teacher, it's all the parents together as a class community. They really are invested in the whole class being successful. Of course, things come up and you have to navigate challenges, but that's what happens in the world. And the more we learn how to do that as we grow up, the better we'll be capable at navigating those things later. So yeah, really, it is quite an investment, but the what you get back out of it is pretty amazing.
Man. And where did the name Waldorf come from, since that's not the person's name that came up with it? Where's that word come from?
I think it was the cigarette factory that they started out in, the Waldorf cigarette. I have to look that up. I should know that answer.
No worries. I was just curious. I never thought about it before till now.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to know how long you have been in your role and specifically at your school, and then we'll kind of dive into your school and some questions I have.
Sure. So I've been at the Waldorf School at Moraine Farm this is my 11th year. And so I kind of came in, I was living in California, ready to move closer to my family, ended up nearby the school, and someone referred me to it. They were looking for assistant to a head of school. So I came in and I started in that capacity, and I came with a background in informal environmental education. So I was the assistant to the head of school, and then I kind of restarted their summer programs. And then I also was instrumental in starting a subject class that we have unique to our school called Science in Nature, which is an outdoor science class that enhances and supplements the existing science curriculum that the class teacher is carrying. So one day a week, all the different grades will have a time when they're outside, hiking, tapping maple trees, going sledding or cross-country skiing, and then doing all these different science activities that go along with their curriculum. No, and then, somehow I ended up in admissions. Sometimes at schools you start wearing multiple hats and you end up, doing jobs you never knew you would. But here I am today doing admissions.
And let's talk about a size of the school. How many students go there? Are you guys at capacity right now? And what is I know this is like 3 questions in one here. That admissions process like you guys have a huge waiting list because of the need for you guys in the community?
Yeah, so our school has parent and child classes. These are things that a parent and a caregiver come with their young child all the way up to 8th grade. So in our school, and I think this may be true for many Waldorf schools, we're really well known for the early childhood programs. That's nursery and kindergarten. So right now I'm sort of at the end of the admission seasons for nursery and kindergarten. We added 2 additional classes this year, and we have wait lists. So we're very much in demand for that. And then as people get into the grades, I think people don't know as well about the benefits of our grades program. We integrate art into everything we do. There's a lot of storytelling, a lot of sort of outdoor time. And I don't think people always recognize that we still maintain this like academic rigor, even though what we're doing isn't stressful for the children. I think sometimes people don't realize how deeply the children are learning. So we do have smaller classes in the grades. So this time of year, as I kind of put nursery and kindergarten over to the side, I really start to focus on the grades applications. So, people have their application, we get school records, we get teacher evaluations, we have parent-teacher meetings, and then we invite the children to come for 1 to 3 days so they can just be at the school. And usually once someone is in the school and sees how it feels for them personally, they can start to imagine what it might be like to be there. And that usually ends up working in our favor because our school, where it is a beautiful property from the 1800s. It's an old estate called Moraine Farm that Frederick Olmsted, who designed Central Park and the Emerald Necklace, designed our property. So we have big open fields and stone walls and trails and a lake at the back of our property. It's really, really beautiful, and we take advantage of that as much as possible.
Man, how many students currently enrolled?
We have 108 students, and next year, by adding a couple new early childhood programs, we'll be more around 125. So I'm very excited.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
And I had a Waldorf quote. So one of the things I've heard about Waldorf is you guys are very big on imagination, and I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but like if it is true, like I'd love to talk about that. Like what is that side that Waldorf kind of pushes or teaches?
Yeah, it's very true. So like in early childhood, we do not explicitly sit down and teach letters and numbers. We really feel like that's best suited for once you're in first grade. So we concentrate on learning how to be part of a class community, learning how to take care of yourself, struggling to put on your snow boots and your snow pants all by yourself and tying your shoes, and cultivating the imagination. So if you look into an early childhood classroom, you're going to see natural materials, nothing too overly bright or stimulating. It's very cozy and nurturing. And the toys will just have a simple gist of them. So a Waldorf doll will just have a really simple face. Everything is really made so that the child's imagination fills in the gaps, fills in the blanks, and it becomes whatever they want it to be. So we really feel like if you were to concentrate on more of those academics in early childhood, you're sacrificing time spent cultivating your imagination. Playing is the work of the children. We don't feel like you should rush to start to sit down at a desk because we feel like physically they're not even capable of sitting at a desk and focusing until they're in their first grade year. And then we continue to use art and imagination to learn as they go into the grades. So for instance, in first grade, they learn all the letters and numbers. They all learn all 4 math processes, but they do it in a really creative way. So each first grade teacher develops characters that embody the 4 math processes. It could be a little bunch of gnomes. It could be a royal family. It could be a little storyline with different characters. But the character of minus is just going to be leaving things behind, right, all the time in the story. And whoever plus is just picking up after minus. So they're learning about the math processes. They're learning different concepts in a way that's not abstract. It makes sense, and it's connected to things in the world that they already understand. So if they're learning about the number 1, they're relating to the sun. That's something we know there's only one of. If they're learning about the number 4, they're thinking about the 4 seasons. So we're trying to think about what do you already understand, which isn't too abstract, and it's within your like geographical sphere. Then we use that to learn and build upon. So creative, imaginative approach, art everywhere, making things beautiful. It just connects you in an emotional way more easily, and you understand it.
I know imagination was a huge part of my childhood of just, I look back and I'm like, man, being a kid was so fun. Like I love being an adult and I would still stay as an adult, but I just think back of like, man, I'd play by myself for hours upon hours and just making up things with my Hot Wheels cars and I remember having Legos and Lincoln Logs and things and making cities and just the hours. And I just look back going, man, that was so fun as a kid because you just had no care in the world. And so I'm here. I love the imagination side that you guys are talking. And and it sounds like the property you guys have, like what a jungle for those kids to play in and be a part of. Like how many acres is that property?
It's over 200 acres. We own I think around 7, but we have access to the whole property. So, there's little landmarks, Goblin Hill and the grandmother tree. There's all these little places that they visit and start to really feel invested in that. They're part of an owner of it in a way. And when they spend the year, early childhood all the way through 8th grade, that's really important. We know that having that redundant experience outside is going to lead to being a steward later in life, So we know that this experience they're having through their grades years is really helping them become someone who cares about the environment later in life.
Do you guys run into, and this will kind of be, I guess we'll go ahead and segue into that first section. We're talking about challenges that you guys have. And obviously, your challenges, but one of the challenges almost thought of is that maybe it's not an issue, but if you have this teacher that is with a student from first through eighth grade, like what happens if that teacher retires, passes away, moves on to another role? Does that really mess up the system? Is that a challenge, or does that, like, for you guys, not even happen before?
It definitely happens. Life happens, right? And sometimes it's not a good match. It's a lot to ask a teacher to teach first grade all the way through eighth grade. So sometimes midway, we may find that that person's not well suited to move all the way through middle school. And so there would be a search process, and a hiring of a new teacher. And I think we just really ask the community and the parents in that class to trust the school to do a good job finding teachers. If you're going to be a Waldorf teacher, you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because you really care and you're really invested in this Waldorf methodology. So usually I would say the people that choose to be a Waldorf teacher are just really amazing humans and very invested. So for the most part, they go all the way through, but sometimes something happens and we navigate that. And it's all about good communication and listening.
Okay. Well, I'm sure there's other challenges you guys are up against. What are some of those other ones, and how are you combating those currently?
Yeah, for us, one of the biggest challenges is just to be financially sustainable. We want to be accessible. So, in our tuition model, anybody who wants to have an accessible tuition review, they share their financial information. We create an individualized tuition plan to meet their needs. And we still have to be able to pay our teachers salaries that are they're worth. And our property is beautiful and it's a big expense. So what we're trying to do is find a balance of how can we make this as accessible as possible and still be financially sustainable. So by adding those extra early childhood classes and meeting the demand that's out there, that's really helping for next year to set us up to be on a firmer ground financially. So that's an ongoing challenge for us. And, having a larger early childhood base will feed into the grades and hopefully allow us to have larger classes in the grades, which would also really help us out.
Okay. Do you guys have room to grow with your facility? Could you grow to 250 students if you had like the higher teachers? Like, could you get to that point?
Right now, our building could not grow too much more. It wasn't built to be a school, but we have a parcel on our property where we could build in the future. So we have a place where we could grow into. And so, hopefully that's where we'll end up moving towards, having an early childhood building and then having a separate grades building. So I hope that's in the plans for the future.
All right. Any other challenges you wanted to share?
Yeah, it's hard to find qualified teachers. So luckily this year, we're pretty much done with the hiring we needed to do. And thank goodness we found some amazing people. But there's not that many people out in the world who are certified Waldorf teachers. So each year when we move into the hiring season, it's a bit of a cross your fingers and have faith that everything's going to work out the way it should. And it does actually, but it can be a little stressful as you're waiting for those new people to come towards you and trying to reach out to everybody who might know somebody who's looking for a job, especially with our subjects too. Like we have things like foreign language, handwork, which is like fiber arts. These are very specialized teaching abilities that are not always easy to find.
Well, it sounds like you guys are kicking butt with the challenges that you guys are up against.
We are.
and that's awesome to hear. And I think it's a perfect segue into the next area, which is my favorite part, which is you get a chance to brag about your school. Like, do as much talking as you want. Let's brag about what's going awesome for you guys that you're very proud of and excited for about the future.
Yeah, things that are working in our favor. We are a small community and we have some shared values. So, we've navigated COVID amazingly. We've been in person, for the past 2 years and had to trust our community to care for all of us together. And they did a great job. So we're feeling pretty happy about that. Hopefully we're all moving out of the COVID phase of things, but it's been amazing to see our community come together in support of each other and navigate that. We do have amazing faculty and staff. Our admin team at our school is amazing. And our faculty really just cares deeply and they're super invested in the children. So I feel grateful for all the work they're doing behind the scenes to bring the curriculum to life for these kids. And then of course, I talked a little bit about it already, but our campus is really something that we're so proud and excited to share with people. Actually, tomorrow we're going to be having a pancake breakfast from all the maple syrup that we collected this February. We have a sugar house down the road of some really nice guys who boil down all the sap for us. So that we'll have a whole community breakfast tomorrow morning outside, having pancakes and putting on the fresh maple syrup and sort of celebrating the coming of spring. Here in Massachusetts, it's a big deal to make it to the springtime, so we'll be celebrating that tomorrow.
Man, I wish I was there. That sounds amazing. I love that area. I've never even been to, well, this sounds bad. I love that area and I haven't even been to Massachusetts before, but I was in Northern Virginia in the fall, and just the feeling of the apple orchards and because we went to an apple orchard, and I was just like, I love this feeling of that you guys have, and we don't have where I'm in Florida. We have orange trees, which again, it's still awesome and beautiful. I just love that Northeastern vibe and feel of like farming and produce, and the colors you guys have in the fall are amazing up in the Northeast. So that's really cool.
We're very lucky. Right now, it's like the maple trees are just bursting with these little flowers, and the grass is just starting to get green. And like one more week, like you'll wake up and all the leaves will just be out, and it just feels like a breath of fresh air around here. It feels so good after a long winter.
Yeah. Do the kids help with the harvest of the sap? Is that a school, one of the parts of the classes?
Yep. So every day the kids are going out, they're checking the maple buckets, they're collecting the sap, and then we deliver it on a nightly basis to the sugar house down the road. So it's very New England. You feel very hearty as you're collecting, buckets of sap.
Do you guys sell it in the community as part of like a school project?
We eat a bunch of it at the breakfast, and we actually do sell it in our school store as well. So it's pretty fun.
That is super cool. I love the business side of stuff for kids, like learning business from a young age. I think that's also really important. So I love that side.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead and do my last main question, and I have a couple other things for you. But if you were to, any of the other school leaders that are listening in, if you had kind of a piece of advice or something you wanted to leave all of them with that were listening, what would that piece be?
I think more than anything, it's just communication is key, and just being a really good listener and giving people the opportunity to share their thoughts and views. We can't always take every idea that people have and make it happen or meet everybody's exact needs, but I feel like if I listen to them and I give them the time they deserve, they're pretty happy in the end with what decisions we have to make.
I love it. And last couple of questions I had, just random ones that came up before we close it out. For when you talk about the teachers and needing the training for Waldorf, is that something that you only will interview ones that are already trained, or will you hire somebody, give them the training, and put them into the role?
Ideally, someone comes with the training, but there's definitely situations where people are in the midst of training, so we support them mid-process. A lot of times teachers who are in training will be doing something a few weekends a year and do these summer intensive courses. So that allows them to work as they're moving towards their training. We're lucky because there's a few places where people can get Waldorf certifications not too far away from us. So if there's someone who hasn't got their stuff completed, they can still be at our school and be participating in that. Okay.
And do you guys do anything with fundraising typically at your school for bringing in additional funds?
We do a lot of fundraising. Right now we're doing one of our big fundraisers. It's an Anywhere in the World raffle. So we sell raffle tickets, and you get 2 plane tickets and dinner and accommodations for 2 nights. And we say it's for anywhere in the world. So that's a very easy raffle ticket to sell. Of course it has like a $4,000 maximum amount, but it's just the idea of what it is, and it gets everybody just daydreaming, like, oh, if I win this, I'm going to go to Thailand. If I win this, I'm going to go to the Czech Republic. Like, we're all talking about our plans, and it's kind of just an exciting raffle to participate in. So that's one of the major ones we do. We have a gnome run happening in June, so we have a little 5K fundraiser, and there's little gnomes hidden all over the place as you run around. So you look for the gnomes and run the 5K.
I love it. Any others? This is good because I know that's been one of the requested things from guests is like, what are ideas? Because I think people get tired of I sold this card or I did this random one. So like the 2 ones already I haven't heard of before. So any other fun ones you guys like?
Another fun one we do is on March 14th. It's the pie auction. So people make pies, and then we have a huge auction, and the pies sell for like hundreds of dollars. People get super excited about it, and then you have pie to eat. So that's fun.
I like that one a lot, actually, Pie Day.
Pie Day.
That's a good.
And you get to learn about math, so that's good.
And your community, because I need to look it up on a map now because I wanted this area you guys are based. Is it a really small town that you guys are in? Or I know you said right outside Boston, close to Boston, but is it a pretty small suburb?
Yeah, it's a pretty small community. So we're just north of Boston on the shore. And most of our students come from Salem, Beverly, and Gloucester. So these are all little, coastal towns north of Boston. We have beautiful beaches and estuaries and forested areas. So it's got a lot of cool nature, but at the same time, a lot of people still near colleges. So lots of restaurants and bookshops and things to do. It's a nice mix.
And I'm guessing a ton of snow when you guys, in the winter. The winter, you guys get a ton of snow there?
Definitely a lot of snow. Yeah.
Is there some good hills on the property for the kiddos to do some sledding on, or pretty flat?
Yeah, there's some. I wish there was more, but we find places to go sledding. We have an adjacent, it's called the J.C. Phillips Preserve. So our trails on our school lead over to that other land preserve. So I've got a nice amount of places to go and look around and explore.
I've loved our interview. I've loved learning about Waldorf. I can't wait to share some of the things with my wife because I learned some of the things like the teacher going all the way through. I thought that's so fascinating and interesting. So again, thank you for giving of your time today. I know it took us a while to get something scheduled and you were super flexible with me. So I appreciate that. And I'm wishing you and your school and all your students nothing but the best. And thank you for all you're doing to pour into that next generation, Coleen. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for letting me share about Waldorf. I'm very happy to let people know we exist. Yeah.
Well, another huge shout out and a thank you to Coleen Ryan for taking time and being on the podcast today. They're doing amazing things up there in Massachusetts, and I just love this location that they have, and she's explaining it and all the opportunities that the kids have to have hands-on learning, which I think is so incredibly important if you're able to offer that like they have. I'm like, man, I kind of just want to go back to school, maybe go to the Waldorf School up there in Massachusetts. So keep up the great work there, Coleen. You guys are doing awesome. And as usual, guys, I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm hoping you were able to take at least one thing from today's episode to take it back to your school to make it better than it is right now. If you guys are struggling, maybe you're trying to grow enrollment for the fall or connect better with families with technology or anything like that, I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to see if we can help you guys. And you can find out more at makers.com. I'd love to hear from you. Or, hey, maybe you're into Facebook. Join our private Facebook community just for school leaders. I'd love to see you in there. It's called simply School Success Makers. So find that on Facebook, private group just for school leaders, School Success Makers. I'll see you in there. And we'll be here next week with another amazing guest as usual on the School Success Podcast. We'll see you then.